The food pyramid is getting a lot of attention right now, and that should actually tell us something, because we've never seen this much hype about government regulations when it comes to food. And that alone should tell us something. Because the moment we've been hearing the new food pyramid out there, people don't just think about food. They're thinking about politics, they're thinking about trust, control, all this stuff. So I'm excited to actually dig into an episode that's not about defending a graphic, a government agency, or telling you what to eat. It's about offering a whole new perspective on why the food pyramid changed, why people feel so strongly about it, their bias that might be actually impacting what it actually says, why it matters, and if your goal is real health, not just following rules. Because here's what I see every day. We've taken nutrition advice and turned it into an identity issue. And when that happens, we stop thinking critically and start reacting emotionally. Today, I'm going to slow that down. I want to talk about the new food pyramid, what it actually reflects, where it gets things right, where it still falls short, and why no diagram will ever replace understanding your body, your behavior, your beliefs. This isn't about sides, it's about clarity. And so if you've ever felt confused, if you're feeling skeptical, frustrated, or even triggered by nutrition guidance and this new food pyramid, I'm going to give you a whole new perspective on this whole new pyramid. Well, hey there, diet disruptors. I have been getting a lot of questions about this new food pyramid. And I think that this is such a complicated and amazing issue to tackle. And I feel like sometimes I'm your friend that's just going to tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. And that's what I'm going to do here. I've been watching so many dietitians, nutritionists, influencers talk about the food pyramid. And it's so interesting to me because as someone that literally you will never, ever see me talk about politics or anything like that. I have no desire to go on any side of the aisle. I don't trust anybody, to be very honest with you. And I'm just going to keep living my life. And I find it so interesting that the political piece that's in this, and I'm a behavior specialist, so I love to sit back and observe behaviors. What people don't understand is that there's always bias in everything that we talk about. Always. And this is one of the reasons why I say self-awareness is so important, because self-awareness allows us to recognize bias. It allows us to take a step back and be like, okay, is the truth that I am stating that I very much believe is true, really true? Or is it truthiness based on my bias, based on my perspective? And I have seen a lot of bias and perspective leaning opinions about this food pyramid. I'm going to tap into some of the history behind it because I don't think everybody knows. And I think because it's all in the news, I think it's because part of this has to do with the Trump administration, people stand up and now comment on it. And we haven't been doing that really up until this point. Let's be honest. And so I again find it really interesting at how much media is behind the new food pyramid, because we've never seen this before. And so I want to dig into a little bit of the history, again, because I don't really think we know it. The interesting dichotomy between how we responded to the guidelines before and how we're responding to now. And then let's just get into the guidelines and kind of what they say, and do they matter? Do they not matter? I'm going to give you my opinion on it. So, the name of my podcast is Diet Disruptors, because I am trying to disrupt everything that the diet and weight loss industry has us believed, and has become part of our culture. And we have to pull away from it. It's a diet and weight loss industries that I very much believe, in addition to so many other industries that have kind of a horse in this race, that have led to the way we do things around here. No matter what episode I'm doing, I just think we all have to recognize that the diet and weight loss industries, the pharmaceutical industries, even a lot of the farming industry, our processed food industry, they don't want, our best interest is not in their best interest. Because if we did what we should be doing to truly be the healthiest versions of ourselves, they would be out of business, or they certainly wouldn't be the multi-billion dollar industry growing at such a rapid pace that they are with such a failure rate. Now, okay, I get it. Pharmaceutical industry, 100%, I will never say like modern medicine isn't amazing, especially when it comes to certain types of medication, but we are heavily reliant on prescription drugs in this country. And the whole concept of diet disrupting is literally disrupting all of these norms that have been set for decades that we have just come to believe. And I think we're starting to wake up in so many ways. We're starting to see things a little clearly. We can't unsee some of the things we're seeing. Things are not adding up. And this new food pyramid, I think, is a really good moment for us to sit back and be like, hold up. What have we been saying up until now? Like, we're talking, like, we have to actually put it down on paper to be like, eating whole, clean, unprocessed foods matters. Like, we have to put it down on paper that says protein is important. It's a huge deviation from what we were saying before. Now, in every single iteration of this food pyramid thing, it is also a pyramid scheme. It's so interesting that we use the word pyramid and then we have this like connotation of pyramid scheme, because it is a pyramid scheme, because different industries benefit depending on where you are on that pyramid. Back when we had the old pyramid, dairy was prioritized. And why do you think that is? I mean, the whole Got Milk campaign is all about dairy farming and bringing that to a whole nother level, right? So what we focus on grows. And so let's not be kidding ourselves that there is a new focus in certain areas of this food pyramid that's going to help other industries. Yes. But let's take a step back, for example. So the original food pyramid came about back in like 1992. And I've heard a lot of dietitians say, well, we don't use that anymore. We don't use that anymore because we did I don't know if I want to use the word replace it, but we did add an addendum to it called My Plate in 2020. And so this is why people don't truly really knowledgeable about the whole history of it, because we didn't really go from the food pyramid to the new pyramid. There was some stuff in the middle that got a little bit better. But again, we are seeing today, I think because of the whole influx of media, because of the political connection that this has, that people are taking notice. But I think it's so interesting. I think a lot of people didn't even know that we had something in between the two pyramids. The 1992 food pyramid emphasized grains at the base. Did you guys see the South Park episode? I want to say this was 20, 30 years ago, where I've never watched South Park, but I remember seeing this and it's starting to come up a lot again, where one of the characters in South Park is like, was like, warning, like the pyramid is upside down, and he flipped it upside down and it became better. And it's really interesting because it's not what we've done now, but I just think it's so interesting that was a 30 years ago thing. In 92, we had this whole pyramid, carb heavy diets. We had a total fear of fat. I mean, if you were, I'm 50, right? Like if you were a kid, almost 51, if you're a kid of the 80s and 90s, you know, it was fat-free, heavy carbs, right? I remember eating bagels because they were low fat. We had very little discussion of protein quality, of metabolic health. And I mean, I just know that our health journey, our own individual health journeys are an evolution. We should continue to evolve and get deeper and deeper and deeper. In my private practice, we talk to our clients about being like, where are you ready, willing, and able to start? Well, back in the 90s, we started in a place that just wasn't where it needed to be. But with so much more information and knowledge, we do know more. But I also will say, like, it's not a big secret that carb heavy diets are going to impact our health, because we've known about blood sugar for a really, really, really long time. But again, we had this balance of a lack of evolution of knowledge, right? And industries that needed to profit often off of certain communication uh, foundational strategies. And so we got it wrong, like no doubt. It was 2011 that USDA introduced My Plate. Up to 2020, just before 2020, it was sort of like accepted, like that's where it is. Once 2020 started, it was like a real an effort of true awareness started getting louder. I would say that it wasn't that it was the first time people were bringing it up, but it was like the messaging was getting louder. And I always say, like, social media can be such a hindrance, such a distraction, so problematic, but it also gets to be the dissenting voice. So think about it. Like, up until social media really was big, there was no dissenting voice. It was one-way communication. It was like, do this. And we were like, okay, they must know better. So we do this. And as a society, we got sicker and fatter. That's what we did. I am 100% against focusing on weight loss. 100%, even though I said we got sicker and fatter. Getting obese, gaining weight is a symptom of our health. And as we started getting sicker and sicker and sicker and more obese, which are the two are the same, obesity is sickness, metabolic disease, all of the symptoms that we have, hormonal imbalances, fatigue, lack of energy, weight gain, and then we move into high cholesterol, high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, insulin-resistant diabetes, stroke, cancer, dementia. All of that is metabolic disease, all of it. And it was like we had this slow roll of metabolic disease, even though we had these quote unquote guidelines. Well, this is why guidelines matter, because what you focus on grows. And while a lot of people are saying the new guidelines, are they really going to matter? It lays a foundation for communication and for expectation. So I do think that it matters without a doubt. Now, I think what's super important when we moved from the pyramid to My Plate, we never got rid of the pyramid. And so I'm hearing dietitians be like, well, we aren't using the pyramid anyway. And I'm like, well, we actually are. A friend of mine just sent me a picture of a bag of bread with the food pyramid on it. We are still using it. It is in schools all over the country. We are still using it. When we moved in from the pyramid to my plate, some things still existed in there, like minimizing processed foods. There's still some guidelines around how much added sugar would be appropriate. And now the new guidelines are really saying processed foods are not part of the pyramid. Now, this is what somebody that will always say, I don't look at food as good or bad or healthy or unhealthy. Food serves our body and food serves our soul, and we need both. The job of these documents should not be to teach us how to have truly this balanced lifestyle. A better relationship with food in our body has to come internally. It does have to come into understanding why we do, what we want, why we want it. The job of these documents is to show us, how do you serve your body? And then when you decide to serve your soul, that should look different for everyone. What serves your soul will not serve my soul. So saying I should eat a certain amount of processed food almost gives permission to say ultra processed food. I mean, like if I took a banana and smushed it up, that's processed, right? Ultra processed food, which is killing us here in the US, and it's filled with all sorts of not food. It's just, it's with chemicals and it's not food. So we really shouldn't be using these new guidelines to kind of grant, clemency over the permission to say, okay, this much processed food, this much alcohol, this much sugar. Because at the end of the day, those are all going to not serve your body. How much of them is going to derail you and how much is going to be safe? It's like there's so many layers of that because somebody's health is not measured just in what they put in their body. It also is measured in how well you absorb, your gut health, how much you move your body, your toxins that you bring in, your mindsets, your community, the relationship that you have with food in your body, your health in other areas with relationships and finances and so many things. So also like I don't really eat ultra processed food. Like I couldn't tell you the last time I had a Dorito. And it's not because I don't feel like I can. I just simply don't want it. So I don't think that the guidelines should have to put forward the extra soul serving opportunities. We have to make those decisions for ourselves. So some of the pushback in the new pyramid that I'm seeing is like, there's nowhere on there telling you about how much alcohol, how much sugar, processed food, because I think that the job of this document is to outline for us what does it mean to serve your body? Truly, what does it mean to serve your body with food, with exercise? It's going to look different in reality in terms of a balanced life for everyone. So I really believe that the food pyramid has given permission to us to kind of have this, like a little bit of processed food is okay, or we have dairy at the top of this. Like it's just not their job to tell us truly how to live a lifestyle. That's got to be something that's up to us. I've heard pushback, and again, I can just tell. It feels like I can just tell people's political leanings, which way people lean, because it's so interesting the language that I'm hearing and the amount of criticism that a new document is being given, when up until now, nobody has said boo, really. People don't even know what the old pyramid is, what the guidelines were, what the new guidelines were before this, what they said, what they were promoting. Like, no, but now we do. So it's telling me something around that. And then the critical piece is killing me, because the amount of garbage that has been taught to doctors, to nutritionists, to dietitians, to our kids, to the average American is what we should be up in arms about. These new guidelines are actually telling people what nutritionists that really understand food and blood sugar have been saying for decades. I have literally said, ignore the food pyramid, ignore the food pyramid, ignore the food pyramid. That is not okay. That has been complacency on our part. Just be like, ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. And then when we get something that is honestly so much better, we're going to be super critical of all the aspects of it. I just think we're missing the mark on the communication, on what the message really is. The new food pyramid prioritizes proteins and whole food, vegetables. And I heard one dietitian get really frustrated because she said the nuts are not as big as the proteins, and the dense carbs are not something to fear, like grains and things like that. Why are they smaller on the pyramid? And I'm like, because they're going to spike your blood sugar. They're gonna. Like, it's not about food being good or bad. It's just literal science. If you eat more dense carbs than you do lighter nutrient absorbing carbs, you're going to spike your blood sugar and you're going to cause metabolic dysfunction. The whole point of it is like this great visual, honestly, that talks about the balance, right? And I am all about a healthy relationship with food in your body, as well as understanding how food simply works in your body. We cannot like the fact that bread is going to spike our blood sugar. We cannot like it. And it's also true. So now what do we do with that? We've got to decide what we want and why we want it. I eat bread. I had a Reuben last night. I had a turkey Reuben. And I decided, because it was intentional, it was sort of like the way that I look at it is about, like, I decided to have like a yellow light meal. Like, I think a green light meal is like, I'm totally serving my body. I'm making that intention to serve my body. A red light meal means I'm serving my soul, no guilt. I am just going to eat what I feel like eating. And yellow light means I'm sort of in between. So last night they had a turkey Reuben on the menu, and I'm like, I am going to have this turkey Reuben. I knew that if I had eaten both slices or both of the turkey Reuben, I was going to feel like garbage. I opted for a salad instead of a French fries. I ate half of the sandwich and I spiked my blood sugar. I did. It wasn't terrible at all. It was way better than it would have been if I had gone all out on a red light meal, but my body can handle it because I'm healthy. And the fact is that spiked my blood sugar. There's no emotion behind it. Now, I could allow that blood sugar spike to get me emotional, to get me stressed out, to inhibit my relationship with food in my body. But I've done a lot of work, and this is what I do with my clients, to understand food. The more we serve our body instead of serving our soul, like we just serve our soul more than we serve our body. We eat when we are hungry and we eat until satisfied, and we do consistent measures towards those ideas versus inconsistent, that we don't show up one day and then be like, screw it, and I'm eating everything in sight the next day, every single day for a year. That we treat our body and the relationship with our body like any other relationship. And what these guidelines are doing is giving us like, this is a North Star of like the ideal kind of relationship with your body and food. Are you going to be perfect all the time? No. And are there some guidelines around like, yeah, if I ate nuts all day, every day, then I would not be balanced. I wouldn't. So I see the new guidelines as a visual representation of how our body simply likes to be treated. And the more we can treat our body the way that it likes, the more it's going to handle us when we do something that it doesn't really like. Think about it like any other relationship. My husband and I have been married 25 years, and we certainly have not been perfect. However, we have shown up in a certain way for each other more often than not. So when we do get into an argument, and we got into an argument last week, we are not headed for divorce. We deal with it. We do. So when you are in a healthy relationship with your body, you are living in a healthy way where you're doing, saying, thinking, and believing what the healthiest version of you does. When you get into a little bit of a spat with your body and maybe you don't treat it as well as you could, your body's like, it's cool. We got this. But when we do that more often than serving our body, it's when it becomes a problem. So I've heard dietitians talk about the idea that like, this is not giving us the language to be able to improve our relationship with food in our body. That's not what its job is. The job is to give us a North Star. And our job is to decide on that continuum, where do we want to land more often than not? And I choose to not give up the opportunities to serve my soul. Ben Johnson, who never wants to die, would never, never, never eat a French fry. That totally gets to be his choice. If we looked at this like on a continuum, he's probably on one end of it, and I'm probably like on the same side of him, but I am not as far down as him, right? And then there's people that are on the other side of the continuum that are like, do not give me a green vegetable. I cannot eat a single green vegetable, nor will I ever, right? I will eat McDonald's for the rest of my life. But now that we have guidelines that tell us, because before those guidelines would tell us, yeah, having some of that McDonald's is okay. And it's not that it's not okay, but it's not ideal. So this is ideal. It's like, I joke, I'm like, listen, I will never, like, I am a Christian, so believe in Jesus, and I will never be like Jesus. I will never get there. But I'm going to keep attempting to up-level myself so I can get closer and closer and closer. And I think that's the job of this. It's like not to tell us you have to do this. It's not the job of this document or this foundation to say, if you don't do this, you are bad. It's the job of the foundation to say, like, this is a North Star. This is like, we want to continuously evolve to get to this place where all of the previous guidelines never did that before. And we were okay with low expectations for ourselves. And I just think that that's not okay. When I was an educator, I used to work with teachers all around the country to support their classrooms and to improve schools. And I always say, listen, high expectations are super important in love and for the right reasons, not based on shame or guilt. And more than likely, If we have higher expectations for our kids, they're going to do more than if we had lower expectations. So if our expectation is here and a kid gets here, okay, that's fine. But if our expectation was here, no one's getting here, or very, very few. They're going here. So by having higher expectations for ourselves, we're going to do more for ourselves. And the whole reason is so that we can become the healthiest versions of ourselves so that we can serve our purpose. That's what this is all about. So I just think we have to recognize anybody that's critical of this or like putting on the scrutiny. Where were you back in 92, back in 2011, when these guidelines came out that were less than perfect? In 92, I get it. Maybe we didn't know as much. By the time 2011 came in, I think we all saw this as an improvement, but I was not teaching that. We were still like, no, this still isn't what we would do. This is why I started PFC PAL. It's nutritional literacy for kids. And it aligns so much more now with the new health pyramid. And that's what we need to be thinking about. Now, like I said, I think that there's other interest in each one of these things. But again, I am just going to focus on what I can control and what I know. And what I know is that this is so much better. So if you are sitting in a bias and saying it's still not perfect, it's still this, that, and the other thing, I love it. Have high expectations and recognize that we are, no matter what you say, like, or how you feel about the administration that put this out, it is a zillion times better and actually really pretty good. If we are looking at it from the perspective of, this is ideal. It really is, but it doesn't represent a true lifestyle. Like, I like my wine. Why I drink wine has to be considered. There are no guidelines for wine or alcohol. It's literally like, try to drink less than you are now. And I think that is actually probably pretty good advice, right? Constantly trying to up-level yourself, especially if you're using alcohol as a way to soothe your problems, as a way to disengage from life, as a way to numb. 1 glass or 10 glasses isn't going to be healthy. So putting the guidelines to that doesn't make sense. I approve and like the idea of these are the guidelines for how to serve your body. We're not going to put in the guidelines for how to serve your soul because that is up to you. All right. So this to me is an important topic to discuss. I hope that it's given you, I don't know, a little bit more clarity on the what's in it, why it matters. Also, though, like why it doesn't matter. Like you got to know what we need to do. It's simple. Eat. I mean, we call it PFC for a reason: protein, fat, and carb. If you eat a protein, fat, and carb, and you eat when you're hungry, and you eat until satisfied, you're usually eating about every 3 hours, your blood sugar is going to be freaking fabulous. You're not going to have cravings. You're not going to have food noise. You're going to be able to do it. It's just incredible. And if you look at what you're choosing for protein, fats, and carbs based on that new food pyramid, life will be pretty good. I promise. Now, knowing what to do and doing it are two different things. And that's why what I do matters so much, because I could tell you how to eat all day long. You still won't do it if you don't actually get into the belief systems and behavioral science of our actions, because our thoughts and our beliefs dictate our actions. So continue to listen, subscribe, so we can get into those things, because that's what's really going to make the change. See you next time.